Hello and welcome to Good Clean Gaming. I'm your host Jalindo, and today we're doing a unit guide for the Coalition units in Homeworld Deserts of Kharak. I went ahead and kind of checked all the unit stats and figured out everything and collected all that information for you guys, and I'm going to show it to you now. Unfortunately, I didn't find a help documentation or anything in the game that outlines all this for me, so I had to collect all the information myself in a spreadsheet. I'm sorry guys, spreadsheet, just like the tech tree, spreadsheet's the best way to demonstrate all the numbers. I'll try to post this on the Steam community guides at some point, and also at the wiki if I get a chance to do that. Been really busy lately, but I wanted to get this video out to you guys so that you guys could know what to expect on day one, and hope it helps you guys out. So, alt tabbing, here's the spreadsheet. We have these are the units. These are how fast they go. That's the speed. We have the armor, which is the amount that they reduce incoming damage. Then we have damage, which is the amount that they blow stuff up. And then we have ROF, rate of fire, which is how fast they shoot. I haven't been able to quantify exactly how fast medium, low, very high, and high is in terms of like actual numbers yet. But I assume it's fairly linear. Once a second, twice a second, 3 times a second, 4 times a second, something like that, or something of the sort. Maybe it's once every 4, I don't know, something like that. But I just haven't been able to quantify it yet. We got the whole information. That's basically the health of the units. And then on the right, we have the abilities that they can use. So the LAV is the first one you start with. That's the one that you research with the LAV, blah, 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 LAV fabrication. And that unlocks the other units, and also the armored assault vehicle right there. When you research that tech, it unlocks a lot of other stuff as well. So your LAV is going to kind of be your light harassment kind of thing. It's good for picking off like salvagers that are wandering around, or base runners, or just anything that's not protected by a tank or a carrier. The LAV can pretty much destroy those things. The salvager is the one that's going to be collecting all your resources, and so it's kind of like the weakest. It's the drone. It's the, whatever you want to call it, that is really weak and can't actually attack, can only collect resources, and it's kind of slow. So pretty much anything's going to chase it down and kill it for the most part. Has low health, not as low as the LAV, but it also has 5 armor, so it's a little more durable than the LAV, but it, like I said, can't attack back, and the LAV just chases it till it dies. We got the support cruiser. It can be used by the salvager. The salvager can deliver resources to the support cruiser instead of the carrier, so you can kind of have these distributed resource collecting areas. Then you have the base runner. It's kind of like you can use it to collect artifacts, which you can use to win skirmishes. Like a skirmish could be won with like 5 artifacts collected if it's set up to allow that as a victory condition. You also can deploy a probe to kind of see what's in an area. Long-range probe, I believe it lasts actually 30 seconds. I put 60, but I believe it's 30 seconds with a 120-second cooldown, but can't remember. And can deploy the ground and anti-air turrets. I should probably go over that for the support for the other things I've already gone through. LAV, if you research it, you can boost and go much faster for a short amount of time. Good for chasing down stuff like railguns. The salvager can use a demolition charge. You'll have these little salvage areas that are kind of closed, kind of like ships that are broken down or something like that. And if you use a demolition charge on it, it opens it up and allows you to collect the resources inside with salvagers. So salvager can open those. Support cruiser has auto cast repair, so it can actually wander around and repair units that are nearby. Useful. Also, you can disable the resource collection mode, so that if you don't want any nearby salvagers going to that particular one because it's going somewhere else, and you don't want the salvagers to be in danger, whatever it is, you can disable it. You can also add anti-air capabilities if you research it. It's passive, and it just shoots at planes as they start attacking. We already went over the base runner. We got the railgun, which has sunder, reduces enemy armor. So railgun's like your tank killer because its shots reduce enemy armor by a lot and then make it easier to destroy those tanks. So a railgun paired with a bunch of other tanks can be devastating. It's really good to have at least like a couple of railguns on your attack with like a bunch of tanks, and that seems to be a really effective attack style. You know, whatever it is, 10 tanks and 3 railguns is scary. Just as an example. Missile battery. This has a mortar, which allows you to... This is like a targeted siege weapon. So you attack an area, and then any grouped enemies in that small, or it says large blast radius, but anything in that blast radius gets hit, and the damage is spread out. So it's an AoE. It's an area of effect attack. Useful. Next, we have the armored assault. That's going to be the bulk of your army. It has some of the highest armor in the game, so it's hard to damage. It lasts a long time, has a high rate of fire. Damage is really low, and that's probably the main downside to the armored assault, is that it does shoot fast, but the damage is low. So if you put up one of these against like something with really high armor, it might take a little while to take it down. It's good to have these guys supported by railguns, because when the railgun takes down the enemy armor, then all of a sudden this damage is a whole lot more meaningful that the armored assault is giving you. They can shoot smoke grenades, so if they're wanting to block enemy line of sight, they can shoot out the smoke grenades and the enemy can't see them anymore. And then suppress targets. It slows down enemy strike vehicles, so those LAVs are so fast, if an armored assault attacks them, it slows them down so they have trouble getting away, they have trouble being, harassing and things like that. It's effective to kind of stop them. Armored assault is basically the light assault, assault vehicle killer. Then we have the artillery cruiser, which is that was the cruiser that was the furthest in the tech tree. It looks like it does 250, not great damage, but its abilities are area barrage for a long range barrage of a target area, and then precision strike, which targets a specific area with a shot. And I haven't got a chance to use these two, but from what I've seen in the game, these are probably pretty powerful. So good for long range, like breaking up enemies before you head in with your main attack force. Battle cruiser, pretty good all around thing. It's basically like a giant tank, like a giant armored assault vehicle, except it does a ton of damage and it's low. So it's kind of like maybe a combination of a huge armored assault and a railgun. Great armor, great damage. So it shoots like a railgun, defends like an armored assault vehicle, basically. Then you got your assault cruiser. High rate of fire at 70 damage, but has a lot of abilities, some interesting ones. It can overcharge to increase its max speed and armor, so it gets faster and is harder to damage for a period of time. It can self-repair. You got to give it 20 seconds. It disables all its weapons while it attempts to repair itself. Useful if you're kind of out and you're not near a support cruiser. And then tactical missile fires missile at a targeted area. So it's a good all-around assault cruiser. Good for those attacks when you're out far away from your kind of base of operations. Now we can get down to the air combat kind of things here. We got the strike fighter, the tactical bomber, and the gunship. You can get a lot more strike fighters than you can tactical bombers or gunships. I think gunships, I believe you can have 2, and tactical bombers, I believe you can have 2. It could be 3. I can't remember exactly. With the strike fighter, you could have something like 12. These things, low damage, but they're good at taking down like your light assault vehicles, your strike vehicles, good at harassing salvagers. They're fast, they're nice to have. They're good for also kind of protecting the bombers and the gunships, because they'll fly out and they'll kind of fly cover, and then other things will be targeting them instead of the bombers. Works out. Check out this bomber. Tactical bomber, 370 speed, a little slower, 15 armor, 2,500 damage. Now, I will point out that the tactical nuke that the carrier can research all the way at the end of the tech tree does half damage on a carrier. That's about, I ballparked it. It doesn't say it in tooltip, but a ballpark that is about 7,500 damage. This tactical bomber does 2,500 damage. It's huge. It's huge. So you can do a lot of damage with a tactical bomber. And then we have the gunship. Very high rate of fire, a little bit lower damage. These things are even better than the strike fighters at taking out kind of your light armored vehicles and things that don't have as much armor, because they just decimate anything that moves. Not as good, in my opinion anyway, not as good as the bomber at taking out the bigger like carriers and things, but very useful. So that's basically the unit summary on the coalition side. Seems really good. I mean, it seems really well balanced and well designed. If I can offer advice on the units, I would recommend getting the LAVs research, getting a handful of LAVs, because you're going to get harassed pretty early if your opponent's good, because they're going to see if you've built defenses and try to take out your salvagers to get early advantage. So probably want to build a couple LAVs for defense and maybe for your own harassment. And then also you're going to want to get the bulk of your army, like I've mentioned before, as armored assault vehicles, because these are going to be just like your bread and butter unit. It also, those two things, researching those two vehicles, unlock almost everything else in the tech tree. And so really important to get those two researched quick. I've used some of the airship stuff. It seems very strong. They can get shot down, but it seems really good for like long range. Go out there, do some damage, and then come back. You don't have to send a bunch of tanks out there and then have them slowly roll away or something like that. It's more difficult. But the strike fighters, the bombers, the gunships, they can go out, they can do a bunch of damage, and then they can fly away and no one can catch them because their speed's faster than everyone else's by far. So once they decide to retreat, nobody's catching these guys. Really good for harassment. And then I'd have to say some of the longer range stuff like artillery cruiser looks very promising. Railgun, great when you pair it up with the armored assault, because it really supports the armored assault's ability to do some damage. And the armored assault is good to pair up with the railgun, because railguns are weak against light assault vehicles. So if you pair these guys together, armored assault protects the railgun supports the armored assault, works out nice. Support cruiser is really useful too, because he's got the repairability. So if you can include like a support cruiser in with your main army, you might not get wiped out. You might wipe out your enemy, then be heavily damaged, and the support cruiser goes around and starts repairing everybody. Suddenly your enemy has lost a bunch of troops. You haven't lost anything because you're repairing up, and awesome. It's just great. So yeah, a lot of good uses to these. I wish I actually had more experience with the cruisers. I don't, but I have seen them be pretty devastating in the very short amount of time I've spent with them. And then the base runner I haven't really used all that much. I think it's going to be useful for like that artifact ability if you got that as a victory condition, and also supporting with the turrets and the launch probe. But cool beans. One other thing I should have probably mentioned, it's just kind of a general tip. I should have probably mentioned in the tech tree portion, but you seem to get a lot more construction units, the CUs. You get a lot more CUs than you do RUs. RUs are used more for research, even though it uses both. And CUs are used more for vehicle building. However, a lot of these vehicles have more cost on the CU side. I just realized I forgot to put the RUs and CUs on this list. But as LAVs are the only vehicle, LAVs, salvagers, and like one other thing are the only vehicles that only take CUs. Everything else takes RUs as well, if I remember correctly. So you get a bunch more CUs. So you're going to want to use that to you're going to want to balance that with your research. You're going to end up building, even if you research a ton, you're going to end up using up CUs, because you're going to have an abundance of, that's going to be the one you have more of. And then the RUs are the ones you're going to kind of have, it's going to be scarcity. You're going to run out of those more often than not. Whereas like I said, the CUs you're more likely to have more of those available, unless you're building really fast and building a big army. Then you're going to run out of those too. So yeah, trying to get a balance. Try to get a balance between those two resources. And if you have anything that I missed that you want to mention, feel free to leave that in the comments below. If you have any suggestions or anything, I would be very glad to hear them. I really appreciate you guys watching. I will be posting when I get time to make a video of it and do the research and everything, assuming it's not posted somewhere by tomorrow. I will be trying to make a Gaussian set of videos for the tech tree and the unit tree with all the numbers and everything. So be sure to click subscribe so that you can get that when that comes out. And thank you for watching, and yeah, remember, keep it clean.